Lights off. I want to give thanks to the committee, the Armstrong, Doug Ritchie, Jack Thomas, and this year we added Ed Code, who put this survey together and worked with me and the council to make the resident survey for 2011. I have a second announcement, which is Ed dined last night, or the night before, with a group of people, 3 of whom swore they never got copies of this survey in their box. Now, we know that a copy was put in every box, so is somebody stealing from a whole bunch of boxes? Or did it just come out with the Community Matters and an ad for the latest show at the gallery, and you just discarded it and didn't notice it? How many did not get a copy of the survey in their box? Nobody.
We're here.
You're here, yes. Well, yeah, but you got the announcement to come.
Absolutely, but we got also.
Okay, the 2001 survey, 2011, yes, thank you, 2011, I'm 10 years off, forgive me. We kept to the one-page format that you're so familiar with because it was very effective last year as opposed to the year before. The year before, we had questions on the back and people didn't even turn over the back, and we had a lot of missing questions. So we thought it good to stick to the one-page format. And yes, I think that was effective, although we're improving all the time and we'll do more next year. This year, however, our return ratio was way down. We had 66% in the 2009 and 66% in 2010, but this year we had 51%. Now, we think we know why, but we're not sure. We think we're over-surveyed at this time. And this cartoon, the guy is saying, after you confess, can you fill out this survey to help improve our interrogation methods? We think that shows why. One of our residents, I don't think he'd mind my quoting him, John Morantz, came by me and slyly said, my doctor says I'm suffering from a surfeit of surveys. we had the survey about the directors called the 360-degree survey.
Yeah.
Now, the difference between that and ours is that ours is a series of statements that we hope you agree or disagree with. Those were open-ended areas in which to judge the upper-level management around here. The other difference, and more important to me, is that we will share with you any and all aspects of our survey. You will never see the results of the 360-degree survey, because that goes direct to Burbank, and from there is shared or not shared with the various directors here. But they're making a judgment, but we won't know anything about it. Now, we prefer to be wide open. The question, of course, is with that 55% return, are our results representative? Well, we never claimed there was any statistical validity to our survey. It's just a survey. We're just trying to find out what the majority think, we hope. Our surveys show the thinking among the residents who take the time to respond, and that's all. We don't claim anything else for it. Some of the committee felt that the drop in returns might introduce some bias into the survey because younger and more active residents might be more likely to respond than us old crocs. The unhappy residents might be more likely to respond than the happy residents. Now, I think that certainly is true, and certainly if you're sick and ailing, you're not going to bother with a survey. I understand that. But we can't know what the non-participation in the survey does with the results, any more than we can know how low turnout rates affect elections. These are the 3 years in general, and look at the patterns, how similar they are. Strong on the positive, which is green. The greens are dark green, very positive, light green, mildly positive. Gray or tan, depending on which version of this you're looking at, is, yeah, no, I don't know, I'm in the middle on this. White is I have no opinion, and we put those neutrals in the middle. And then come the negatives. The pink is mildly negative, the red is strongly negative. And while there have been a few changes, these are not incidentally comparable. These are comparable only in which had the most positives and which had the most negatives. The only big difference is that there were more neutrals or I don't knows in 2009 than there have been since. But it seems to suggest that the trend is positive throughout all 3 years, more green, less red, and that trend increases a little bit here. Okay. Let's start with the questions asked in the order in which we asked them. The first question was, or the first statement was, with which you were to agree or disagree. CBTS management anticipates problems effectively. Well, about 36% of you said yes, they did, and 48% of you said they didn't. So this is slightly toward the negative. Very few didn't know. But I think that's something that CBTS management should address, anticipating problems, looking for them before they happen. Front porch limits fee increases to what is needed. Well, we got the response we expected. 20% said, sure they do. Well, nearly 40%, 38% said no, they don't. In the middle, however, yes, no, and I don't know, a big I don't know. We don't know, in other words, more of us don't know what CBTS, how the fee increases come from front porch, and whether they're fair, and whether they're what is really needed. We feel we don't know, or we're neither positive nor negative about it, then are strongly negative or strongly positive. But if you take only positive and negatives, we're a little negative on that, and I think front porch can do better explaining why we need fee increases in specifics. Now this is last year's on the same thing, and are you surprised? They're almost identical. They're almost identical, and yet they sent a team here to explain why they needed the fee increases this year. Did it work? No. Not completely. We really, I think, need more specifics, or we want more specifics from front porch to satisfy us. Will we get them? Well, they say no. They say they're going to continue to answer in generalities. We'll see. I think they're getting more specific with their answers as time goes on. CBTS is a leader in technology to benefit the residents. I didn't like this question personally because I thought nobody knows what leader in technology means. Does that mean that they've got the medical records all computerized? They don't. Does that mean they're working hard to get us Wi-Fi? They are. They're pulling all the strings they can. We're supposed to start installation of Wi-Fi here in September, this coming month. Really? We don't know, but that's what they think. What does that exactly mean? But many of you felt, in fact, about 36, 37% felt that they were, well, just on 20% felt they weren't. Now that means
all the
that,
boulders over there.
that means that the negative in the center is, or the neutral in the center is the strongest opinion. We don't know, or we don't care. I believe CBTS will help me in an emergency. Now we have an area in which our administration can take some pride, I think. More than 75% of us, probably 76%, feel that we can rely on CBTS to do something in an emergency and help us. Well, only a little bit on the negative side says they ain't going to do nothing interesting. Very strongly positive. How about CBTS is concerned for my welfare? Slightly more negative, but again, a very positive response. Nearly 70% say yes, they are concerned. I think that's very good. I think they should take a bow for that and for the previous one. California Lutheran Homes Foundation is a good charity to trust with my donations. Well, look at the number who are neutral or don't know. That's the biggest answer there. 41% say it is good. Only, well, gee, maybe 18% say bad, not a good place. But all the rest are neutral or don't know. What's the problem here? Ross Merritt has been here to speak to us many times at town hall meetings and to explain the nature of California Lutheran Homes Foundation, which is the charitable arm to which we make donations that come back here to benefit us. We make it through them because it's tax-free to us then. It's a tax-deductible then, excuse me. But is it a good charity? Well, despite all the speeches we've had here, look at the bunch who feel neutral or don't know. I think there's a lot of education work that needs to be done here, but not just more speeches at the town hall, because that's not working, is it? We need a little something else. I do recommend, by the way, the seminars that come periodically. Ross may not convince you when he's up here giving a pep talk, but I think he is pretty good on the latest laws from Congress and so on, which he does inform you of in the seminars. And you might consider going there if you're one of these in the I don't know section. Security at CBTS is getting better. Well, yes, it is. Say 50% of you. Well, only, what is that? That's maybe 18% say no, it's not. There's a big neutral factor here and a little bit of I don't know, but that is an improvement over previous years. And so I guess the security is getting better. CBTS benefits from being part of Front Porch. Now here we've got another category where we've had endless speeches on this subject. Front Porch sent a team down to talk to us. Jeff Sianko came and talked at some length about what Front Porch does. Ah, yes, there's the previous year, 2010. And between those, we had this long speech, nearly an hour, at Town Hall about what Front Porch does for CBTS. And it hasn't changed. It's almost identical. So I guess we need a little more information to feel positive about it, or strongly negative. Maintenance requests are completed promptly. I want you to look at that. 81% say yes. Let's about 10% say no, and the neutral or I don't know is another 10%. It's just about 10, well, maybe 11 and 9 there.
What was last year?
What was last year's? Do we have that? Yes, we do. Much improved over last year's. There were strongly negatives. There were, let's see, 16, 17, 18% that were mildly negative. And this has improved dramatically. Congratulations, maintenance. You're working on it, and we're proud of you. You're working on it. My views influence priorities at CBTS. Now, maybe you don't know what priorities CBTS has, or feel you don't. Maybe you don't know what influence your views have, and so you vote in here, the I don't know or the neutral. But I would be cautious about a number who think they have no influence whatsoever. That's 36, 37% approximately feels negative on that, whereas only 20, 25% only 3% maybe feel strongly that, not strongly, but feel that they do have some influence on priorities. Here's an area I think where if it's meaningful, if CBTS priorities are meaningful to you or to the administration, we need to get together and get some work done.
Do you have a comparison?
No, that was a new question this year, was it not?
It should be next year.
Yes, it will be. I have no doubt it will be.
Well, there are some similar questions.
There are, yeah. My views, well, I would choose CBTS again. Yes, there we are. Okay. Last year the statement read, I'm proud to live at CBTS. And we objected to that because proud to live at CBTS. We rejected that because the word proud bothered us. What does it mean to be proud? Does it mean to be snooty because you live in an expensive place and John Doe lives down the street at El Hollow? So we changed the wording. Changing the wording seems to change the percentages. But we're still overwhelmingly in favor of Carlsbad by the Sea as opposed to something else. That neutral, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. The I don't know surprised me a little bit. That's maybe 3-4%. But the negative is larger than it was last year on the proud. Well, we'll ask the question in this form again next year and see the differences, because the wording may make the difference. I'm not sure of that. All the same, this is very, very positive. We like Carlsbad by the Sea. We like our lives here. They ain't perfect, and we want to get them perfect. And we're activists for perfection. Here's one that should bother everybody. Carlsbad by the Sea welcomes my suggestions. Well, 42% said yes, they do. But 38% said no, they don't. There's a neutral and an I don't know, very small in the middle. We've got almost an even split, and it's a little bit worse than last year. Oh, no, excuse me. That's not it. Excuse me, this is not last year. This is an earlier question. Beg your pardon. My views influence CBTS priorities. Last year, management responds promptly to my concerns, which presumably took in both of those, but the committee preferred these wordings and will probably use these again. We're not so sure that our suggestions are welcome. We're not so sure that we have any influence if we do make a suggestion. Yes, I think we need some work here. Front Porch communicates effectively with me. Oh, I'm sorry, folks at Front Porch. But look at that. There's more negative and strongly negative. Strongly negative looks to be, let's see, about 22%. A little bit more than, well, close to, and when you add the mildly negative, it overwhelms the positive. There's a big neutral area in here. Maybe they're effective, maybe they are. They are on some things, they aren't on others. And there's those of you who don't know, bless your hearts, and we may not have sat through a state of the organization presentation by Roberta Jacobson and Mary Miller. That's coming up next month, by the way, and I do urge you to come if you want to see how effective. If you're in this area, for heaven's sake, be sure to come, because now you'll know, and you'll know the answer, whether it's effective or ineffective to you. But again, I think we've always said, and we will continue to say, the more specifics they give us, the happier we are. The more generalities they throw our way, the less we care what they just said.
When does that mean?
I don't know the date, but it's in September.
Okay.
watch for this on your calendars.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, front porch values our residents. Well, that's pretty good. Maybe 45% say yes, they do feel valued by the front porch. There's a negative, though, of 23, 24% here. And a big, I don't know what they think. And a big, This is, the largest area is positive, the next largest is neutral, and the negative is the smallest. But they're very close, very close. And of course, that's because it says front porch. We thought that Carlsbad by the Sea valued the residents, cared for the residents, would go out of their way to help them in an emergency, but we don't know about front porch. We still don't know about front porch. And here's the one where we get the big, strong positive. And once again, Tom Shannon, step out and take a bow. Food services meets or exceeds my expectations. Geez, that's 80% there. Nearly 90%. Nearly 90% positively. In previous years, it was not, last year, it was stronger. It was not as strong on the very positive, but it was better on the sort of positive, and that means that we only just a little bit improved the overall positive score up here. The interesting thing was, incidentally, that there was a stronger, very negative this year. I was surprised at that.
Yeah,
Here we are.
yeah, you can see.
It's very strong, as opposed to just one or two people there. I think, in general, you could take that food services slide, and you could say that that's how we feel about Carlsbad by the Sea. There are things we want to improve, there are things we don't like, there are things we want to change because we're reaching for perfection all the time. And we're working at it, we're working with the administration, and the administration is working on it too. But in general, we think things are getting better, and in general, we like it here. And that's important. Notice the improvement from 2010 to 2011. Improvement. Now, one last look at the overall picture. I don't know that this proves anything.
What's that one with the biggest negative?
The biggest negative is CBS management. Excuse me.
CBTS
Management
management
anticipates problems effectively.
Okay.
Can't make that large.
No, not that one.
Way to read it.
Not that one.
That's okay.
Anticipates problems effectively.
That's as good as you're gonna get.
That's fine.
Sorry about
I just
that.
wanted to know what that one was, thank you.
Yeah. CBTS anticipates problems effectively, has the biggest negative score.
And the other one was CBTS welcomes my suggestion.
Yeah, I remember that.
CBS, and front porch,
That was the other bad.
this is a front porch question.
CBTS welcomes my suggestion.
Yeah.
Negative also.
Oh, that's up here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well,
up here. Those are the two biggest negatives, I suppose. And this is a front porch question, front porch. I can read it if I get close enough to it. Front porch communicates effectively with me.
Yeah.
My views influence CBTS priorities, and front porch limits fee raises to what they need are these three.
Yeah.
You know, what I thought was interesting, Jackie, was that the neutral responses are larger where there's a stronger negative feeling. As though,
Oh, that's true,
Now
yeah.
statistically, that might mean something, but again, we can't make statistical
yeah,
generalities from this because of the limited response.
Yeah.
That is, we can't make statistical generalities about how the overall the residents feel. Okay, we did ask about your experiences. What areas were your experiences? Some residents feel that we have a lot of talent here that's going unnoticed, unused, and that a lot of people want to be included in planning and in doing. But it's not clear how many residents want to be involved, even as advisors, even if they have the relevant experience. So we thought we'd ask, we'd find out what you think. Do you have a talent? Do you want somebody to ask you to join in and to use that talent, that experience, that knowledge? Most residents simply left it blank. They said they didn't have any or they didn't care to share. 30% gave an answer, 70% gave no answer. A few wanted to be consulted. Now, 10.3% have experience, wanted to be consulted, and were consulted, have experience, and were consulted, whether they wanted to be or not. 18.5% have experience and wanted to be consulted, but were not. 71% didn't want anybody to bother. Don't ask me anything. Leave me out of the loop. But it's interesting that more than twice, or nearly twice as many, wanted some share of the planning, of the action, and were never asked squat.
That's so vague, what do they want to be asked?
Okay, about their talents and their backgrounds, and they listed them. Here's another way of looking at it. Were consulted by management, 8%, 32% were not, 52% didn't want to be.
Yeah, actually, I think those are counts.
No, and those are actual people?
Yeah.
Oh, out of the number of
Yeah.
okay.
It's
That's
close,
good enough.
because there were 97 responses.
97
So
responses
the
to
percent
this.
is the percent in the number.
Yeah, I left it, no answer. Wish to be consulted, 22, 15 did not wish to be consulted, and 60 didn't answer. None of those who didn't wish to be consulted listed any experience, which is not true. We know that you were captains of industry and leaders among men and women, but you didn't put anything down because you don't want to be bothered.
We're
Okay.
retired.
You're retired. Right, as Fritz says, we're retired. Leave us alone. Okay. Here are the experiences listed by those who were consulted. Management, leadership, and social services, said one person. The area of emergency response. Interesting. Some of the experiences listed by those who wanted to be consulted but were not. Business management, photo framing and art gallery experience, financial experience, analytic and clerical experience, various, that's fair, new ideas, someone who is an innovator, the health area, the management of a large business, someone involved in investments. I suppose the financial and investments are similar. Retail store management experience, and the area of safety. And none of these people were ever asked anything.
So did you ask a question that said, did you let anybody know you had experience? So you
That's a good
asked?
question. That's a good question, and if there was room at the bottom of the page, we would have asked it. There wasn't, and it might have skewed the meaning of the response. Once more, 18.5% of us have experience, would like to be consulted and are not, and maybe, as Jackie said, they didn't let anybody know. They hid their lights under a bushel. We don't know. 10.3% have experience and were consulted, but only 4% of those wanted to be consulted. The others were consulted whether they wanted to be or not. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to figure that. Okay, our age distribution, 2009 is the plain light green, 2010 the stripe, and 2011 the dark green.
Yeah, this
Note the
is-
drop in all age groups except the 95 to 99, where there's been a growth. We're losing some people, of
Well,
course.
this is the count, so this is the
Yeah, this,
drop in response.
yes, the drop in response
So here's
is
the percent.
partly responsible for that. Normalized by percentages to eliminate the response rate factor, we still have the growth in the 95 to 99. And we have a smaller drop, but we also have a growth in the 85 to 89. And we have almost equal in the 80 to 84. In other words, fairly even here. We have a few more in the 65 to 69. Interesting. There's a little change in proportion of us who share a unit. There is little change in the proportion of those of us who share a unit. It's about 50% who live alone, and just over 50%, and just under 50% share their unit of those who answered. Remember, only 55% of the residents answered. Okay. The women, of course, outnumber the men. We expect that because that's the way it happens. We have 2/3 women, 1/3 men living here, and that was the way it was on the responses, 2 to 1. How long have you lived here? 1 year we got last year, when we'd only been open for 12 years, we had somebody say they lived here for 13 years. And we had no residents over 100, and somebody said they were over 100. So you can't always go by what we say about ourselves. But the largest numbers here, of course, are, this is people living in the main building, and this is where the south building joined us. And then we had a spike 4 years ago, what was it, the 007? The 007, with that wonderful black and white dinner they give.
That's
Completed years in residence
5%.
by percentage. Oh, yes, okay. Comparative years in residence by percentage. There's the 14-year. See that? That's the person who said they lived here 14 years, and we don't even know it's 12.
I love it.
12. Comparisons are misleading unless we compare it by year of moving, and that is because we don't count accurately. As you saw, somebody who counted 14 years of experience was inaccurate. But next year, we're going to ask, what year did you move in? And that'll be easier to keep track of. 1998, the first year we were open.
Yeah, see, it doesn't compare right.
No, it doesn't
You have
compare right.
residents who lived in the old Carlsbad one this year?
No, moved into this building.
Yeah, we have a couple.
We still have a couple of people who live.
So they could have lived here.
So they've been here 14 years, or more than that.
Not in this, that may have confused them. That may have been the confusion factor. Okay. Now let's look at a few comments that you wrote. One resident made clear the confusion we caused with the years in residence question and wrote, residents since opening 1998 assumed. That's why we're going to put, what year did you move in? Many comments related to the personalities, and we have intentionally avoided anything like that. We phrased everything as positively as we could. Even if we personally disagreed that something was true, we stated it as true and let you agree or disagree with it. We're not going in, this is not a survey of do you like so-and-so. That was the 350-degree survey. One resident questioned the diversion of front porch funds derived from resident fees to ventures not directly benefiting residents, for example, Maluma venture in Mexico. And for those of you who don't know, we'll be glad to explain what that is. One resident mused, what would they do without us? Indeed, what would they do? There were several positive comments concerning transportation. Transportation very good, drivers very helpful, transportation provided very good. And we're delighted that that is so, because we didn't ask a question directly related to transportation, and it's nice to have something pleasant to pass on to the transportation folks. Okay, what can we conclude? You draw your own conclusions. All of this might help you in your thought processes about what your neighbors think, or what you ought to think, or what investigation you ought to do, or what you ought to work on. but you draw your own conclusions. Generally speaking, we're happy at Carlsbad by the Sea. And generally speaking, we want our community to continue to improve, to be all that it can be, and not to be simply satisfied with what we have. There's some confusion amongst us about the role of Front Porch, despite all the efforts of the Front Porch people to enlighten us. So we need more communication. A minority of residents would like to be engaged with management and to be consulted on decisions affecting them. Now, that is a minority, as it was asked. Perhaps that will change when you know what the question's about, and next year you may put something different. You may list an area of expertise and say you want to be consulted when this year you weren't. I don't know. But it looks like a minority want to be engaged in decisions. Our demographics have stayed pretty much the same, except that more of us are living active, vital lives to advanced ages and actually reaching the 95 to 99 and beyond. We have 4 people reaching 100 next year.
I think it's 4.
4, is it?
I think so.
And that's it.
Somebody told me.
Oh, great.
And now you may discuss to your heart's content. Yes.
Give a vote of thanks to this young lady who has sat in the most miserable position.
We want to hold thanks to Valerie. She's doing this whole thing, sitting on the edge of that wretched chair with her back arched painfully so she can see through the camera. And we do thank you. Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Yes.
People want to be asked about things. You
Yes.
know, I do like chairs that they go out and want us to sit on.
Yeah.
But, you know, the business thing,
Yeah.
I don't.
No. No.
So,
you want to be, okay, you want to be consulted about things that affect you directly, like the chairs. Yes.
You were consulted,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
didn't do it.
Mildred?
Yeah. Has the Lutheran Foundation ever come out and made a statement that, yes, what you give will go back to Carlsbad by the Sea?
Yes.
Have they?
Yes.
I'm
They do
happy
it
to
every
hear
time
that
we meet,
because-
because those of us who are on that committee, the so-called philanthropy committee, and I see Valerie, and myself, and Ray, and Doug here, members of the philanthropy committee, ask every time we meet,
See, they would.
are
not
you
be-
sure?
Yeah.
Does this go, if we say Carlsbad by the Sea, is it held for Carlsbad by the Sea? Absolutely.
Okay.
They
I'm-
swear
I'm-
on a stack of their own brochures.
Well, I'm happy to hear that because I was happy to hear that because we could not get a direct answer. It was barring any emergencies. Well, truly.
No, it's like the money for the Alhambra. Money that was given in the name of the Alhambra to be used by the Alhambra, of course, became a redundancy when the Alhambra was dissolved. There is no Alhambra.
Well, I'm-
And several of us asked over and over, and we were assured that the money that says Alhambra on it is going to benefit those residents, to help them with the move, to help them get settled in their new place, to help them establish relationships with a new place, etc., etc. And perhaps, but it will be held in perpetuity for residents of the Alhambra as long as any remain alive. Although they are no longer residents of the Alhambra because there isn't any Alhambra. So if that's true for Carlsbad by the Sea, then hopefully their money will come back.
When we started
You know, I was
this
pleased to see that the foundation folks consulted with the Attorney General on some of these questions.
Doug says, when we asked about the Alhambra monies, the first thing they said was they were consulting with the state attorney general about how that money should be handled. We took that badly. We thought that meant about how to circumvent the regulation so they could use it for the foundation in general. But it turns out that is not what they meant to say. They misspoke if they gave that impression. They were making sure that an Alhambra resident equals the Alhambra.
Well, it was at the time that we started our scholarship fund that we could not get a definite yes or no.
You had a different head of the foundation at that
I
time.
believe so.
And we have Ross Merritt, whom you've all met now. Things are being handled a little differently, and the bookkeeping is handled a little differently. I think we've all had an experience of having some money we were trying to trace untraceable at the foundation, and it worried us. And now that doesn't happen. I hope, at least it hasn't happened recently.
Because they know we're watching them.
Well, here at least, I don't know about Wesley Palms, is Wesley Palms the other? No, Walnut is the other California Lutheran Homes community. And I hope they have a committee like ours overseeing and asking piercing questions and pounding on the table when they get annoyed. Because I think it's very helpful. Other questions, other comments, other things that we ought to, if you think of a question, for heaven's sake, for next year, let us know. Yeah.
I think more and more of us going up to the care center, hopefully temporarily.
I'm sure
I
you're
think
right.
it would be nice to have a question about their experience.
Jane suggests a question on the care center experience because so many of us now are experiencing the care center, which is probably true.
I think that's a good idea.
And I go up there and I get mixed reviews.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
So I think it would be nice to document.
Depends on how sick they are.
No, not necessarily.
they have a care center survey, which is separate from the independent living resident survey. I don't know how good it is,
No,
because I've
exactly.
never even seen it.
They also survey the families of those
And
patients.
they survey the families of the
I
patients.
know, but I don't trust it.
Perhaps we should have a short, an additional short form just about the care center. If you think of questions you'd like to ask, I don't think an overall question, was your experience pleasant or unpleasant, is going to make it, because of course it was unpleasant. You were sick.
Yeah, I think a good word is.
You were sick and ailing. Nobody's happy when they're sick and ailing.
I
Yes,
would refer to the staff.
to the staff, to the staff. In what sense?
What was your experience with in general, the staff, the cares that are favorable or unfavorable? Or I don't know how you.
Well, perhaps that's general enough. No, I understand what you're saying. We would, of course, phrase it positively. I
Yeah,
had a good
and
experience.
you could either disagree or.
Yeah,
or
you
not.
disagree, agree or disagree. We've really struggled to learn to put everything in a positive light,
Sure.
because there's no point in putting some negative and some positive. That doesn't work very well, as we discovered the first year. Yeah, okay, other questions? Well, you've pretty well done it, haven't you? Thank you very much.